Good morning, Reef Builders. I'm Jake Adams. Thank you for joining me on the beginning of a very fun adventure here in the Solomon Islands. And we have reached our first destination. We are at Morale Sound, and this is a beautiful, beautiful place. A big enclosed water space with beautiful corals. But more importantly, this was the site of the first ever coral farming for any reason back in the late 90s. And we are here to basically kickstart the program. It's very important to develop sustainable income for the communities that live on the reefs, because it's their resource, it's their heritage. And being a part of restarting the coral farming projects here at Morale Sound is just a humbling experience. It's also very exciting. It's also very lush. This is a beautiful village, as you can see. And let me show you where I spent the night last night. This is the bungalow right there where Tim and I stayed. We've got Chris, Beta, and Lincoln. That's our boat for later. And can't see it right now, but there's an area of seagrass, and right after that, it's a beautiful, just amazing, just a crazy, crazy, crazy garden of soft corals, leather corals. I don't think I've seen that much diversity of soft corals in one place ever. And it's kind of funny to see that the leather corals and the soft corals are actually shallower and more flow and more light than the stony corals are behind it. So we're gonna do some diving today, but for this video, I think I really just wanna focus on showing you what the beautiful, diverse soft and leather corals look like. This whole area is just a giant paradise for sarcophyton, lobophytum, sinularia, lots of cool fish. And yeah, so this is where we stayed last night. I am going to put on my snorkeling gear and we're gonna get in the water and see what corals we can find.
In the aquarium hobby, our corals rarely get much larger than a frag, so it's really rare to actually see a full-size colony of some soft corals, especially diverse species. So I really wanted to show you what wild soft corals look like, especially in all their shapes and their textures, and more than one colony as well. Seeing these corals all spread out and grouped by their own kind really helps you to appreciate the different shapes and colors and patterns of each of the different species. It's really hard to tell them apart when they're standalone, but when you see them side by side in a very ideal shallow water environment, you can really begin to appreciate the diversity of lobophytum, sarcophyton, and sinularia. For obvious reasons, for these videos, I'm definitely concentrating on the colonies that are completely open and look their best. But just like in our reef aquariums, in the wild, there is no rhyme or reason as to why some colonies of soft corals will be completely open with polyps extended, and right next to them there'll be some closed up colonies with polyps retracted. So don't be discouraged if your soft coral doesn't open up in your home reef tank, because this happens in the wild too. So this is a very curious example of a very bizarre soft coral. I believe that it's a sinularia, but it could be a lobophytum. And this particular coral, sometimes I call it a donut leather coral or a tire leather coral. I don't think anyone's really paying attention to these big, flat disc or tube or donut-shaped leather corals, but they always happen in very shallow water, and they have these very thick ridges. This is one of the species of soft corals that would be really hard to appreciate to its full glory in an aquarium environment, because colonies can be anywhere from 2 to 5 feet across. I've very, very rarely seen these in aquariums or even small colonies offered for sale, but this is why I go to the natural reef, really, to go enjoy corals that don't make it to the headlines of the aquarium world. So toadstool leather corals are probably some of the most familiar soft corals in the aquarium hobby. They belong to the genus Sarcophyton, and they're typified by basically a cap with some polyps coming out. And a very common type is brown with brown polyps, but in this particular environment, I was able to find the rare and often overlooked gold crown leather. And it has a yellow capitulum with white polyps. It's a subtle difference, but it looks way more attractive in an aquarium. At this point in the video, I'm starting to wander off into slightly deeper water, and this is actually what's needed for the Sarcophyton toadstool leathers to get big enough and to start multiplying, because in the shallow water there's just simply too much wave action, and only the Sinularia and the Lobophytum can handle that environment. So where it starts to get a little bit deeper, it transitions into some stony corals like Parietes, but this is where you find colonies of Sarcophyton toadstool leather. This is by far one of the coolest things that I saw on my shallow water soft coral snorkel. This is basically a miniature reef pinnacle that is crested by a Sinularia, and it has all kinds of diverse soft coral species growing around its base. What you might not realize is that this pinnacle was actually built layer by layer by the base of the Sinularia. It's a species of soft coral that I affectionately call the Joshua tree soft coral, because it builds these thick, sturdy basal branches. There's a common misconception that it's impossible or ill-advised to keep soft corals along with stony corals, but really this boils down to the habitat. As you can see in this clip, there's yellow branching devil's hand Lobophytum growing right alongside yellow Parietes cylindrica, and they both look beautiful. As I start to transition away from the soft corals and more towards the stony corals, the water gets deeper and the fish also get larger and more numerous. So I stumbled across this small little cleaner ass cleaning station and thought I'd take a look to see what customers it has today. A little deeper still, and I was able to focus in on a beautiful pair of Regal Angelfish. These fish are normally very shy, but there's a lot of fish in this environment. As I start heading back into shallow water where the soft corals are, I take a moment to appreciate the diversity of stony corals. These are mostly Parietes species, and just by chance I came across this funky little nook where a handful of juvenile fish were really kind of clustered together. And these include a Rafflesi butterfly, Klein's butterfly, tailspot butterfly fish, also a very small nasotang, as well as a similar looking small and beautifully cute sailfin tang. When you're in the right environment, it's only a matter of time before you stumble across some of the iconic clownfish of any region. And pictured here is a beautiful Sabay anemone with a pair of Clark-eye clownfish. And just a little bit further, there's a stunning specimen of a pink long tentacle anemone, again with a nice large mature pair of Clark-eye clownfish. Although I was primarily looking for the soft corals on this shallow water snorkel, this environment is not the sole domain of the soft corals, and especially in very shallow waters where you'll often find a lot of the very strikingly colored encrusting species of Montipora, such as this Montipora monasteriata, also known as Superman Monty. As we're about to wrap up our extended shallow water snorkel really focused on soft corals, we spy a couple beautiful specimens that will be very familiar to the reef aquarium hobbyist. This is a shallow water Acropora turaki, goes by the trade name of Hawkins echinata, and right next to it is a nice, classic, beautiful pink Acropora millipora. The Solomon Islands is definitely the land of millies. There's so many milliporas throughout the reef environment on the islands. So this is just a taste of what we're going to be looking for and documenting a whole lot more in some of the upcoming videos.
Boy, what a way to wake up. What do you say, Tim? How was that? Man, just don't know what to say, but soft corals definitely don't get nearly as much love and appreciation, but you gotta have the supporting actors. But as you can see, in the right conditions, the corals really, they shine. Every coral, every animal pretty much, when you put it in the right environment, the right conditions, it's just gonna shine and blossom and just look its part. And what's cool over there on this particular soft coral and leather coral reef is you have all the different textures and all the different shapes and sizes just juxtaposed right next to each other, and it's just such a beautiful sight. And I didn't get to find the true perk pair that I saw, the true percula clownfish pair that I saw last night, but we saw plenty of awesome stuff. Even came across a couple clearings, which I'd like to think were where they used to have the coral farms, probably the tables for the farms out there. And there's some just kind of some nice strains of SPS corals, which you know, I have to believe that some of those are just leftovers from when they were farming here, especially that turaki. That was thing that was just like totally glowing. So yeah, I think it's about 10 o'clock. We did a little hour snorkel. That was the leather coral reef. Thanks you guys for tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed that. And yeah, we're gonna get ready for the first dive of the day. We're gonna get on a boat, get a little bit further to the ocean, a little bit offshore. We can see the breakers from here, can hear them a little bit, and get a little bit more into exotic stony coral territory. That's where, you know, the real meat of you know, coralology and the aquarium appreciation for stony corals is at. So yeah, hope you really enjoyed this video. Definitely post in the comments, like, comment, subscribe, all those things, and we'll catch you guys on the next video.